and play on 2nd and 10. That's his youth right there.
Tagovailoa trying to make up for it. Fires to the end zone. Touchdown! Alabama wins!
Today, I'll be continuing with my college football game by game prediction and roster discussion videos. Today, I'll be doing the Tennessee Volunteers. Josh Heupel had a good recruiting class in 2025. It ranked 11th in the country. He had 14 four-star recruits and 2 5-star recruits. But Tennessee only returns at 51% of their production, which only ranks at 81st in the country. Offensively, Tennessee averaged 33.3 points per game last year, but that number is actually deceiving. Their offense wasn't actually that good. They just scored a whole bunch of points against the little teams they played, and NC State, that it made their offense appear good. But in the SEC games, sometimes they struggled just to get a first down. Now, they were a really good running team last year. They ranked ninth in the country in rushing yards per game, averaging at 225.8. And I do think they'll be worse this year offensively than last year, but I don't think they'll be terrible offensively. You probably know what happened this spring with Nico. I did leave you. He wanted more money, and Josh Heupel told him that he can't put one player ahead of the whole team. So he told I did leave you to leave, and so he left. And while I think Heupel made the right decision doing that, their team will probably have to suffer a little bit this year because of it, because Tennessee is not as good of a team now as they were when Nico, I did leave you, was still on the roster. So the starting quarterback this year will be Joey Aguilar, a transfer from Appalachian State. He was a 2-year starter for them. He started 24 games in college, 13 in 2023 and 11 in 2024. But he was better in 2023 than he was in 2024. In 2024, he did throw for 3,003 yards and 23 touchdowns, but he only completed at 55.9% of his passes, which was bad, and he threw 14 interceptions, which was very bad. And he's not a statue, but he's not what you would consider to be a dual threat quarterback either. He had a little over 200 yards rushing each year that he was the starter at Appalachian State. And wide receiver is very concerning. They lose all of their top 3 wide receivers from last year, Dante Thornton and Drew McCoy and Squirrel White, and they didn't add any transfers at wide receiver. I don't think they're going to be great at passing this year. And at running back, they're not replacing what Dylan Sampson gave them last year, but they do have a few decent running backs. So I do think they'll be okay there. And the offensive line loses 4 out of 5 starters. But the one starter they do get back was probably their best offensive lineman last year. Left tackle Lance Hurd, a 5-star offensive lineman that started his college career at LSU and transferred to Tennessee last year and had a great season with them last year, only allowing 2 sacks and 21 total quarterback pressures. But they did add two transfer offensive linemen that are good. They brought in from Notre Dame left guard Sam Pendleton, a four-star recruit who started 7 games and played in 13 games last year and played a total of 482 snaps last season and didn't allow a sack all year and only allowed 6 quarterback pressures. And they bring in from Arizona right guard Wendell Moe, who has started 27 games in college and played in 29 college games. And in 2024, didn't allow a sack all year and only allowed one quarterback pressure. And defensively, Tennessee was probably top 5 in the country in points allowed per game last season. They only gave up 15 points per game. This was the best Tennessee defense in over a decade for sure. And they ranked 10th at stopping the run, only giving up 103.9 yards rushing per game. And I think their defense will be good again, but I don't think it will be as good as it was last year. So on the defensive line, they can't replace James Pierce. He got drafted in the first round. He is a big loss in the pass rush. He had 55 quarterback pressures last season. But they do have Joshua Josephs coming back, who had last year 39 tackles and 1.5 sacks and 22 total quarterback pressures and 3 forced fumbles and 3 pass breakups. And they've got Dominic Bailey coming back, who had last year 25 tackles and 2 sacks and 25 total quarterback pressures and a forced fumble. And they've got Bryson Eason coming back, who had last year 24 tackles and 1.5 sacks and 7 total quarterback pressures and a pass breakup. And they've got a 4-star Tyre West, who played in 11 games last year and started 3 games. He only played a total of 201 snaps last season, but he was good when he was in there. He had 16 tackles and uh, 2 sacks and 17 total quarterback pressures and a forced fumble. I think he'll be really good for them. He'll be a full-time starter this year. I still think Tennessee's going to have a good defensive line. Now, linebacker, they're not very deep here. Arian Carter comes back, and he's a good player. He was their leading tackler last year with 68 tackles, and he also had 6 pass breakups and an interception and 3 quarterback pressures. But besides him, they don't have anybody proven at linebacker. Now, in the secondary, Tennessee, I think, is going to be really good. They ranked 29th at stopping the pass last year, only giving up on average 189.3 yards passing per game. And they've got both starting cornerbacks back, Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson. McCoy had last year 44 tackles and 9 pass breakups and 4 interceptions. And here's a clip of him making an interception that you can watch.
The game. Melrose intercepted along the near sideline. Jermon McCoy across midfield.
And Gibson played in 12 games last year and had 32 tackles and 5 pass breakups and a forced fumble. These two cornerbacks could make one of the best cornerback rooms in the country this year. And at safety, they've got Andre Turrentine back, who had last year 37 tackles and three pass breakups and an interception. And they've got Bo Carter, a four-star safety who played in 13 games, but he only started 5 games. He had last year 38 tackles and a sack and an interception and four total quarterback pressures. He was only a freshman last year. He'll be a full-time starter this year, and I think he's going to be a good player for them. So now for the game-by-game predictions, starting with Syracuse. So a similar thing happened with Syracuse this spring that happened with Tennessee with the Nico I did leave you situation. One of Syracuse's best players, a wide receiver, Trevor Payne, decided that he wasn't satisfied with the amount of money he was getting. So he went to his head coach and asked for more money, and then also wanted to get the ball thrown to him a certain amount of times every game. And the coach told him pretty much that he's crazy and that he needs to pack his stuff and go. So he did leave, and now he's at Penn State. And while that was the right decision by Syracuse's head coach, Fran Brown, Syracuse is not as good of a team without Trevor Payne as they were with him. And while both teams do lose a lot, you have to remember that Tennessee, even though Syracuse was a good team last year, was still a better team than Syracuse was last year. And Tennessee returns a lot more on defense than Syracuse does, and I think that makes the difference. I actually think Tennessee blows out Syracuse and that scores a lot of points in this game. And now East Tennessee State. Tennessee lives for these kind of games against little teams because it's the only time they can ever look dominant. They love to run the score way up, and I think they'll do that in this game and probably win like 70 to nothing. And then, like last year, at this point, Tennessee's offense will probably appear good because of the first 2 games. They probably will put up a whole lot of points, but then that'll fall apart the next week when Georgia comes to town and Tennessee will barely be able to get a first down. Tennessee's offense, I think, will probably just score like 10 points in this game. And Georgia's offense, I don't think it's going to be elite, and Tennessee's defense will be good enough to make this a competitive game, but I don't see Tennessee being able to hold Georgia under a couple of touchdowns in this game. I think Georgia gets this win. So now UAB, another one of those games where Tennessee will run the score way up and win easily. So now on the road at Mississippi State, I think Tennessee wins this one pretty easily. Uh, Tennessee, I do think, will be able to score quite a bit in this game because Mississippi State's defense is going to be terrible, I think. And Tennessee's defensive line, I think, will dominate Mississippi State to where Mississippi State won't be able to score much in this game. And now Arkansas. This is a revenge game for Tennessee, and the game is at home. I think Tennessee's going to be very motivated for this game. And Arkansas does have a good quarterback, but I think Tennessee's secondary will be able to slow Arkansas's passing attack down. And Arkansas's quarterback, Taylor Green, is a good runner. So even though I do think Tennessee's defensive line will win the battle with the Arkansas offensive line. I do still think Taylor Green will be able to get Arkansas a few good runs in this game. And Tennessee, may not be able to sack him much in this game with him being a dual threat quarterback, but I think Tennessee will stop the Arkansas running backs. And I don't think that Tennessee will score a lot in this game, but I do think they'll score more than they did last year against Arkansas, and I think they win a close, lower scoring game. So now on the road at Alabama. So this is a revenge game for Alabama, and the game is at Alabama. And while I don't think Kalen DeBoer it can get a team as ready to play as Nick Saban could, I do think he'll have them ready for this one. I think Alabama will be very motivated because you know Kalen DeBoer has to be upset that he lost his first game with Tennessee because Alabama Tennessee is a rivalry game. And while both defenses are good, the difference with the defenses, I think, is the linebackers for Alabama. Alabama has a much deeper linebacker room than Tennessee does, and they've got, I think, one of the best linebacker rooms in the country. And I think Alabama's offensive line and wide receivers will be the difference offensively in this game. Their offensive line has got at least three future NFL players on it, and they've got three future NFL wide receivers. So I think this will be close, but I'm going with Alabama to get the win in a lower scoring game like last year. So on the road at Kentucky, this one I think will be close and lower scoring. Kentucky's offense, I think, might be the worst in the SEC this year, and Tennessee's defense, I think, is a little bit better than Kentucky's is too. I think uh, Tennessee will shut down Kentucky's offense, and I think Tennessee will get this win. So now Oklahoma at home. So Oklahoma's defense, I think, is a little bit better than Tennessee's because their defense is good everywhere, and I think Tennessee is gonna struggle offensively in this game. I don't think they'll even be able to score 20 points, and Oklahoma's offense, I think, with the transfers they brought in, is a little bit better than Tennessee's this year. And I think this will be a low scoring game. And I don't think Oklahoma will score a lot, but I think they'll score more than they did last year against Tennessee. I think they'll be able to score over 20 in this game. And I'm going with Oklahoma to get this win. But this is the game I'm the least confident in my prediction for in this video, and this would put Tennessee out of the college football playoff. But then they get to beat up on New Mexico State, and now on the road at Florida. This is a close one, I think. Florida, I think, has a better offense by a little bit than Tennessee, but Tennessee, I think, has a better defense than Florida does. But Florida, if you watch my video for them, you know I'm not high on them at all. But I will say this may be the best they've been at the line of scrimmage under Billy Napier. They're going to have a pretty good pass rush and an experienced, very solid offensive line. And I think the offensive line for Florida make the difference. I think Florida will be able to run a little better than Tennessee will. This also being a revenge game for Florida at Florida, I'm going with Florida to get this win. So now Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt's defense is actually the opposite of Tennessee's. Vanderbilt actually has a really good linebacker room, one of the best in the SEC, but they're not very good on the defensive line or in the secondary. And Vanderbilt's offensive line, I think, is going to struggle this year. And I don't think that Vanderbilt can handle Tennessee up front on either side. I think Tennessee will be able to run the football well in this game. And I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I think Tennessee wins it by about 2 touchdowns. So I've got Tennessee finishing the year at 8-4 overall and 4-4 in the conference. So while I do think they'll take a step back, I don't see Tennessee going back to how they were before Josh Heupel got there, where they were winning like 4 or 5 or 6 games. I think he's got the program in much better shape now than it was then. But that will be it with this video. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon.